said, what we're going to be talking about today is something we call the perfect follow-up system. And the goal here is to show you how you can double your business in the next 90 days by implementing these follow-up campaigns that we're going to show you how to build. So to get started, if you don't know who I am, if you've never attended one of the workshops that I've taught, my name's Josh Arras. I've been working here at BlackBook and with investors since 2014. And I'm a marketing and sales operations specialist, which basically means I help investors build out marketing and sales systems to run a better, more organized business. So we show you how to scale your business without scaling your complexities. Married to my wife, Katie. We have a son named Bodie, and that's my family there. And when I'm not working, I love to golf as much as I can, which inevitably is not enough. I'd like to golf a lot more than I do, but I am going on a golf trip this week with my dad down to the Lake of the Ozarks, so that's exciting. All right, enough about me. I want you to ask, and the title of this workshop is a bit of a spoiler alert, but I really want you to ask yourself, and again, I want you to get in the right mindset, because sitting on one of these workshops is great, sitting and learning is great, but there's a difference between learning and actually implementing what you learn, right? I liken it to, I once heard, I think it was, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, you can't read a book about doing push-ups. It's like, yeah, you can read a book about doing push-ups, but you're not going to get any stronger. You're not going to be able to do any more push-ups. You can learn the right way to do things, best practices, but if you don't actually do the push-ups, you're not going to get stronger, right? You could read a book about learning Spanish, but if you don't go speak Spanish, you're never going to learn the language, okay? So you can attend a workshop like this, but if you don't actually put this into practice, you're not going to see any results, okay? And I think it's important to ask yourself, because everybody wants to grow their business, presumably, or you wouldn't be on this call, okay? And I want you to ask yourself, what is the easiest way to do it? Because there's a lot of ways that you could do it, right? You could spend more on marketing. You could double your direct mail budget. You could make 50 more cold calls. You could send, you could bolt on 1 or 2 or 3 more marketing strategies like pay-per-click. Right? But all of that includes more time, more money, more effort, which, isn't bad, but there's a better way to do it. And obviously that way is follow-up. And the reason is because you're already spending some amount of time or money, typically time and money, to generate leads. And if you don't have a system to convert more of those leads into deals, then you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Okay. And so that's why we really stress the importance of follow-up here at BlackBook. And that's why I'm really excited about teaching this workshop. So I want to get into a couple stats here that are pretty alarming. So if you had to guess, and drop this in the chat, and I'm not gonna be able to see it in real time, but drop it in the chat. I'd be interested to see what your thoughts are. If you had to guess, what are the percentage of salespeople who quit after one follow-up attempt? So what are the percentage of salespeople who quit after just one follow-up attempt? The answer is 44%. So 44% of salespeople quit after just making one follow-up attempt. All right. Another stat, which again, like if you just follow up more than once, you're better than the majority of salespeople. And this goes for real estate investors. Real estate investors at the end of the day are salespeople. So if you just follow up more than once, you're doing better than the majority of salespeople. All right, so of those people who do follow up more than once, what do you think the average follow attempts that they're making? So how many times do you think they actually follow up if they follow up more than once? The answer to that is 2. Okay, so on average, salespeople follow up no more than 2 times. Okay, and I bet you most of you can probably relate to this. You get super busy, and if somebody's not ready to sell their house right away, you're on to the next one. Sure, maybe you call them back the next day, but how many times can you actually call them over and over and over again and get no response or get told no? That's why people only follow up 2 times. Now, on the flip side of things, the number of sales that happen after the 5th point of contact is 50%. Okay, so statistics show that you have to follow up more than 5 times to close 50% of your deals. Okay. And this is in line with a lot of the investors that I talk to. So at our last boot camp, Andy Warner, who's been an investor for something like 20 years, he's done thousands and thousands and thousands of deals. He said that 60 to 70% of the deals they close come from their follow-up campaigns. Okay. And he said most of the time they're having to follow up with people 4 to 10 times. It just depends, right? It just depends on where people are at in the selling cycle, right? Some people are, you send them the postcard at the right time and they're ready to sell, but the majority of the time that's not the case, okay? So if you follow up with people more than 5 times, you're going to be able to close 50% more deals, right? Or really, you're going to be able to close probably, twice as many deals, okay? Now, the problem is, and the reason why there's so much that investors have such a hard time following up is because their sales process looks like this, right? And if you've been on any of our trainings before, you've probably seen this graphic here. We use it a lot because it's the perfect analogy for what most businesses' sales process looks like. It's basically you're dumping all of your leads into a system that just has tons and tons of holes in it. Right? You're just going out, and this is why going out and spending more on marketing and generating more leads is not the answer right away. Okay? So right away, the answer, the lowest hanging fruit is to systematically, one by one, plug each one of these holes in your business. And so we're going to go in and I'm going to draw out a process map on the whiteboard here in a little bit on what the perfect, we call it a seller journey. In broad terms, a lot of people call it a customer journey. But basically, it's what does a seller have to do? What steps does a seller have to make to sell their house to your company? Okay, so we want to create that perfect seller journey. And in doing that, you're going to identify 3 major holes in your business. So we'll talk through that, all right? But before we do, let's talk about why investors have such a hard time following up, okay? So why don't investors follow up even though they know that they should? And I'd be interested to see what your answers are before we get into them. So I'll give you a couple seconds here. If you could drop a comment in the chat and let me know why you're not following up with your leads. You got a question while we wait for that, Gary? No? I don't think that we're going to be able to see it in real time, but let's see. 222. So, okay, I'm looking at some answers from before. So a lot of people said 70%, 90%, 85, 85. Perfect. All right, so we got Jeff Andrews, not enough time. Susan says we don't want to annoy them. Brian says inconsistent time management, what method to follow up, time, burnout, calling with no results, organization, lack of systems in place, lack of system. All right, well, you guys basically hit the nail on the head here. So I got 3 different reasons why, and you guys pretty much covered them all. The first one is I don't know what to say, right? So we heard a lot of that. I don't know what to say. I don't know what method to follow up, right? So we're going to help you overcome this in this workshop because we're going to give you the exact scripts, when to send them out, exactly what you need to say. Do you send email? Do you send text message? When do you send it? So we're going to go through and we're going to talk through that. I've got the scripts already in place, okay? So we're going to give you the words to say. The next one is I don't want to sound salesy, right? So somebody said that specifically, I think, don't want to annoy them. Susan said I don't want to annoy them, which I totally understand, okay? So part of that is you're just going to have to get over that. But another part is, if you craft your message in the right way, it doesn't come off as being salesy. It comes off as being more conversational, okay? Now, with that said, are you going to get people that reply and say, take me off your damn list, or I already sold the house, stop contacting me? Yes, Okay, and that's just part of sales. That's never going to go away. It doesn't matter what you say. You could follow up and you could offer to give somebody $100. If you did that to 100 people, 10 people would tell you, to go F off because they think that you're, trying to scam them, right? So that's just the reality of sales. And to a certain degree, you're going to have to get over that a little bit. But the scripts that we give you are going to help you come off as being more conversational in nature and not so salesy and pushy. And the other one is, I just forgot to do it, right? And so a couple people said, poor time management, lack of time. A lot of people just said time. Some people said I don't have the systems in place to do it. So again, all of that we're going to help you overcome in this workshop, because we're going to go and we're going to show you how to systematically follow up with people and do it automatically. So we're going to show you how to build automation into your follow-up process so you can build an automated sales machine. All right. So people that aren't ready to do business with you today, somebody said in the comments that they were getting burnt out just calling and continuously getting rejected. So, if somebody's not a hot lead, then you can lean on automation to warm them up in the background. And then when they're ready to sell, they're going to reach out to you instead of you always chasing them down. So it completely flips the script, which is pretty awesome. All right, so we're going to help you overcome any of the problems that you have around follow-up, which I'm really excited about, because what I want you to be able to do is participate in the compounding effect of follow-up. And this is really what separates investors that are just kind of struggling, or business owners that are just kind of struggling and getting by, from those that are continuously growing their business and predictably generating revenue every single month. All right, so I want to draw something here on the whiteboard. So Kevin, I'm going to switch over to the whiteboard here in a minute. But before I do that, I want to talk about the goal of this workshop. So we talked about this a little bit already, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're clear. The goal of this workshop is to immediately, and when I say immediately, it really is in the next 60 to 90 days, help you double the number of deals that you're able to do from your existing traffic and leads. Now, you might be sitting here saying, I don't have any traffic and leads. I'm brand new. I haven't done any kind of marketing. What this will do is it will give you the confidence to go spend money on marketing, because you're not going to dump those leads into a leaky bucket. Okay, so if you're brand new and you have no leads, don't worry. All right, this is going to give you the confidence to go and spend $500, $1,000, $2,000 on marketing, because you know that you're going to be able to close deals as they come in. If you have existing traffic and leads, then we're going to show you how to build a system that's designed to take those traffic and leads and predictably and profitably convert them into more deals. Okay, if you've got a list of cold leads that you've been sitting on, I'm going to tell you about a story of an investor who used one of these exact campaigns to close over $80,000 in deals from a list that he thought was completely dead. So if you've got a list of cold leads that are just kind of sitting on the shelf, we're going to show you how to activate those and re-engage those. And once you do that, you're going to be closing more deals, which means you're going to be generating more revenue. So if you choose, again, this is all based on your own ambition and goals, you can then reinvest some of that money so you can now double your traffic and leads. So that's the compounding effect that I'm talking about, right? So because you're doubling the amount of deals you're doing, you're generating more revenue, which means you can put more of that revenue back into marketing, which means you have exponential growth. So Kevin, I'm going to jump over on the whiteboard here. Perfect. So let's take a look at what a business looks like without any follow-up in place, all right? And we'll just say that this is, we'll say this is month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, month 6, so on and so forth, okay? And this is, 1 deal, 2 deals, 3 deals, 4 deals, all right? So hopefully you can see that okay. All right. So, sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm in the frame here. You're good, Kevin. So a business that has no follow-up in place is you're kind of living like campaign to campaign, quote unquote, paycheck to paycheck, because what's happening is every single month you're having to make more cold calls, send more mail, Send more text messages, spend more on pay-per-click, right? And so if you want to grow, your marketing budget has to grow. That's the only way to do it because you're not following up with leads. So what that might look like is, on month 1, you probably close no deals if you're just getting started because it takes some time to get marketing going. Month 2, maybe you close a deal. Month 3, maybe you close a deal. Maybe month 4, you get lucky and you close 2. Month 5, you don't close any because you went on vacation, you didn't send any mail. Then it takes you another month to get things ramped up and you close 1, okay? And let's just say you're generating 50 leads a month, all right? Which means you've now got, 48 people that still haven't sold their house. This month you've got, 47 people that still haven't closed their house. This month you've got, 46 people that still haven't closed their house, all right? So that's roughly, 140-ish people over these 3 months that have not sold their house. So what you can then do is if you're following up, the follow-up will help you grow exponentially because what you're then able to do is you're able to get, let's say on month 3, a couple leads pop out and now you close an extra deal from follow-up. Now you close 2 extra deals from follow-up. Now you close another, 2 extra deals from follow-up here, right? Maybe you actually close 1 deal in month 5 from follow-up even though you didn't do any marketing, okay? So this is what follow-up can do for your business. And by the way, all of these deals that are in green, you didn't have to spend any extra money on, right? You didn't have to send any extra direct mail. You didn't have to make any extra cold calls. You didn't have to pay a cold caller. You didn't have to spend any extra money on Google ads, right? Maybe you're doing a little bit of retargeting on Facebook or something, so maybe you spent a little bit of money there. But if you're just using the follow-up campaigns that we're showing you how to build in this workshop, you're going to be able to participate in this compounding effect that other business owners, other investors that aren't following up don't have the luxury of, okay? So I hope that visual makes sense, and I hope we're all in the right mindset to roll up our sleeves and get to work, okay? So I'm going to go back over here to the computer. I want to talk about, these are just 2 particular investors that have used these literally exact follow-up campaigns to close more business. So Brian Martineau said we locked up 3 deals with these BlackBook follow-up campaigns from leads that we thought were dead. One of these deals is going to net a $62,000 assignment fee. Again, that would be a deal that would be represented in green on the whiteboard. Okay. Marcy Martinez, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Marcy. She spoke at a lot of our events. She is a longtime BlackBook user. She says, I love getting these out of the blue text responses from sellers. BlackBook goes to work for months and hands me my motivated leads when they are hot and ready. So basically what she's saying is, we did a workshop with her a while ago, and I remember I looked at one of her long-term follow-up campaigns, and she had something like 800 or 900 sellers in one of her long-term follow-up campaigns. And what she's saying is these campaigns go to work for her for months. And so they just send text messages and send emails that are very conversational in nature. And when people are ready, they just respond. So she's not going out like a crazy person and chasing down all these sellers. She's letting the automated campaigns do it. And she sits back, works all of her hot leads. And then the leads that were once cold or kind of warm are being warmed up in the background, and they're responding and they're turning into hot leads automatically. It's a pretty amazing thing. Okay.